All right, we're going to finish up Unit 1B notes. We're going to start off with the prime factorizations here and the list method. Now, if you look at the list method here, I have this completed, right? I just copied and pasted from the multiplication chart that we had open. These are all the multiples of 15. These are all the multiples of 25. Now, again, I'm looking for the first common multiple. So when I look here, 25, I see 75, and 75 is the first common multiple. So I'm just doing LCMs now. Now, if I keep going, you can see 150 is also a common multiple, and then 225 is also a common. But remember, we're looking, the L is for least, so it's got to be 75 is my least common multiple. Now, the way the computer, when you click on it, help me solve this, they love to use the prime factorization method. So you can use either or. The limitations of the multiplication chart is if one of the numbers is not on the chart, you're going to have an issue. And I will show you how to deal with that as well. But the prime factorization method, if I look at 15, remember this from 1A, you do the little chart here, 15, I go 3 times 5, they're both prime, so really this is just 3 times 5. Now 25 is another easy one, it's just 5 times 5. So now when I do the prime factorization method, if they share one, like they both share 1, 5, so then what I would do is I would write down that 5 that they share. Now there's an extra 3 and an extra 5 that they don't share, so I just end up putting it right next to each other. So now when I do this, 5 times 3 is 15. 15 times 5 is 75. And I do get the same answer, don't I? I think this way is a little more confusing, but if you get used to it, it's really not a bad way of doing it. And like I said, the computer will love to show you this way. Now, a couple tricks when we're going through these things. When I'm looking at 6 and 7. Now, the prime factorization way is not too bad on this, because if you think about it, 6 is only factorable by 1, 2, 3, and 6. 7 is only 1 and 7. So they really don't have any common factors besides 1. So if they have no common factors, you really just do 6 times 7, and my common multiple is 42. And if you look at the chart, that's the first one you're going to see. Now 4 and 6, they share a common multiple, or a common factor of 2. So I could look at 4 and 6 to get 24, like I did when I looked at the number chart at the first part of 1B. But really, 4 and 6, the first common multiple is 12. So the least common multiple here is 12. And again, look at the chart. Now 7 goes into 56. 7 times 8 is 56. So if the smaller one goes into the bigger one, the least common multiple is 56, and we're done. Okay? Now, 400 and 300. Ugh. Neither one of these is on the multiplication chart by a long shot. But we can kind of ignore the zeros and just look at 4 and 3. Now, they have no common factors, so I just do 4 times 3, which is 12. And then I would just add the two zeros back. 1200, there's my least common multiple. Now, this is truly, I think, the hardest one. They don't give you this very often, but this is a good one to go over in notes. If I look at this, 35 and 49, neither one is on the multiplication chart. So I really have to do it the prime factorization way. 35 is really 5 times 7. 49 is 7 times 7. But again, what's nice is they share a 7, don't they? So when they share a 7, I write down what's shared. And then whatever's not shared, I also have to write down. Now, unfortunately, if I look at this, 7 times 5 is 35. 35 times 7, I just don't know my multiplication chart that high, so I gotta write this out. 35 times 7. 7 times 5 is 5. Carry the 3. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 3 is 24. So my answer is 245. That is truly the worst question you're gonna see. Now, 2, 5, and 9. This is actually very similar to the first question that we did, like 6 and 7. 2, 5, and 9 have no common factors whatsoever. When they have no common factors whatsoever, I just multiply them all. 2 times 5 times 9, 10 times 9, that's 90, and we're good to go. So no common factors, you can tell that. I would like to say they're all prime, but 9 is definitely not prime, because 3 times 3 is 9. But 3 doesn't go into either one of those, so I'm good. Adding and simplifying. Now, when you're adding fractions, they have to have a common denominator. This first question's nice. They both have the same denominator of 5. Now, when we were multiplying, we would do 3 times 12, we would do 5 times 5. Adding, you get the common denominator, then you only add the numerators. 3 plus 12 is 15 over 5. Notice that this does not change like in multiplication. 15 divided by 3 is 15 divided by 5 is 3. Now, 7 and 8, we don't have the common denominator. Now, I always like to do my addition vertically. Now, if you don't like doing this, then there are plenty of people who don't. Do it horizontally. Now, the common denominator is 7 and 8. They have no common factors, so it's got to be 56 is my common denominator. Now, 7 times what is 56? So I got to multiply each by 8 here. And then 8 times what is 56? So I got to multiply top and bottom by 7, and I get 35. So now I have the same denominator of 56 here. So I have to add up my numerators only. 32 plus 35 is 67, and the denominator stays the same. Now, 12 and 18, I would definitely use your multiplication chart. And when you look at 12 and 18 on it, the first common multiple is 36. So I want to do 7 twelfths plus 13 eighteenths. And I want to convert both to something over 36. 18 times what is 36? Times 2. 12 times what is 36? And now times it by 3. And again, just look at your multiplication chart to see all these things. 7 times 3 is 21. 13 times 2 is 26. Denominators are the same. 21 plus 26 is 47 over 36. Again, denominator does not change. Now, if you're noticing, the numerator is bigger than the denominator in both of these questions here. 47 is bigger than 36. 67 is bigger than 56. In 1C, we'll learn how to deal with it. Now, the one thing I should have been looking at is to see if they have any common factors to reduce the fraction. Now, 47 is a prime number, so 36, it's not going to reduce at all. 67 is a very unfriendly number as well, so that's not going to reduce either. But I should have at least looked. Alrighty, now we have our first one. You're like, oh no. 125 is not on the multiplication chart at all. 10 is. In fact, 10 is a super nice one, is it? 10, 20, 30, 40, that's nice and easy. So what I almost got to do is I have to create a little mini multiplication chart. So now the first one is always 125 times 1, so it's 125. But what's 125 times 2? 2 times 5 is 0, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 250. Now that ends in a 0, doesn't it? So that's got to be the common denominator. So it's 4 over 125 plus 1 over 10. 250 is my common denominator. So what do I have to multiply top and bottom by? Well, I just did it right there, times 2. And this is actually on the multiplication chart, but you should be able to get 10 times 25. So 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 25 is 25. They both have the 250. 8 plus 25 is 33 over 250. Well, that's my answer. Now 33 is divisible by 11 and 3, but 11 and 3, neither one of those go into 250. So I cannot reduce that any further, so that would be my answer. Alrighty, a word problem. Park ranger hiked 1/4 miles to a lookout. 3/5 of a mile to a bird's nest, and then 7/10 of a mile to a campsite. How far did the park ranger hike? So really we want to total up this. So it's really going to be 1/4 plus 3/5 plus 7/10. And I like this question in the homework as well, where they're adding three fractions. You don't get crazy denominators. This is a very nice one. If I look at 4, 5, and 10, the first common multiple is 20. So I have to change them all to 20. So 4 times 5 would be 20. 5 times 4 is 20. And 10 times 2 is 20. So when I rewrite this, this is going to be 5, that's going to be 12, and that's going to be 14. So I have to add up all three of them. So 5 plus 12 is 17 plus 14, that's 31 over 20. Now 31 is a prime number. Over 20, it does not reduce, and that should be my answer. Now, we're getting into subtracting in fractions, and it's really the same thing. If I do 1/10 minus 9 over 100, 10 goes into 100, so 100 is my common denominator. 10 times what is 100, so I got to multiply top and bottom by 10. Now, you don't have to write my next step that I'm going to show you, but you can. It's really 100 times what is 100. I really got to multiply top and bottom by 1. A lot of people do like to write that out. 1 times 10 is 10. 9 times 1 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1 over 100, and that's my answer. That certainly cannot reduce. Now, I have my next one again where 18 is on the chart, but 27 is not. It is just off the chart. So, I can look at my multiplication chart for 18, so that'll be helpful. So what I want to do is I want to start multiplying out 27. Now 27 times 2, 2 times 7 is 4, carry the 1, 54. And very luckily, if I look at my multiplication chart, 18 times 3 is 54. So 54 is my common denominator. When they give you one that's off the chart, you really won't have to go too far. 7/18 minus 8/27. 54 is my common denominator. So I got to multiply this one by 3 by looking at my chart. And so that'll give me 21. And then 27 times what is 54? Well, I did it right there. So 27 times 2. So that's 16. I add them up together, I get 37 over 54. Okay, and why did I add when it was subtraction? I do not know. Ignore that part here. It's 21 minus 16. So 21 minus 16, I have to borrow. So 11 minus 6 is 5. So it's really 5 over 54. Sorry about that little distraction there. 5 over 54. Now, these next things, they're going to put you in here saying use the less than or greater than sign to make the statement true. So now, when we're doing this, and there are multiple ways of doing this, but since we're finding common denominators, that we're going to use common denominators. That's the goal. So if we look at 2 and 9, the common denominator, first common multiple is 18. So really, I need to multiply top and bottom by 9. Then this one I need to cut bottom by 2. So I get 9/18, and then I get 2/18. When they have the same denominator, then I can just compare the numerators here. 9 is bigger than 2, so I put this. Remember, when this is the alligator mouth, it wants to eat the bigger of the two. So now, 8 and 12, 24 is the common denominator when you find it on the chart. So I do times 3 here, and then I'd be timesing 2 here. So I get 15/24, and then 14/24. Okay, and so again, 15 is bigger than 14, so I would do the same thing here. It's a greater than. Alrighty. And then we have just a couple more questions here, and they have a little equation work here. Again, what's the opposite of addition? Well, minus 7/30ths, minus 7/30ths. Now, I'm subtracting, so I need a common denominator. Now, luckily, 6 goes into 30, so 30 is my common denominator. So here I got times 1 times 1. Here I got to do times 5 times 5. So I'm going to have 25 minus 7 over 30. Now 25 minus 7 is 18, so that's 18 over 30. Now, immediately I should notice these are both even numbers, so I can definitely reduce it. Now if I look close enough, 6 is the largest common factor. 18 divided by 6 is 3, 30 divided by 6 is 5, and that's my correct reduced answer. Now, when you are doing the homework, if you type in 18 over 30, it's going to say, although your answer is correct, it is not in the proper form. It's going to say something very similar to this, okay? I don't know if that's exact. But though when you see this, you say, okay, so I don't have to redo the whole thing. I just have to reduce my answer. So when you click check and it doesn't say great job, keep up the good work, or some kind of cheering you on, sometimes when it's wrong, it does give you a good hint, and this is a good hint. This next one here, what's the opposite of adding? Well, we're going to subtract. So we have 3/5 minus 1/2. Again, 5 and 2, common denominator is 10. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2, top and bottom by 5. So you get 6/10 minus 5/10, which is 1/10. Okay. But remember, whenever you have these equations, you're always doing the opposite sign to move whatever's attached to the x to the other side. And our last question here, and I didn't give myself a lot of space here, so I'll have to deal with this. A long tire, a new long life tire is 3/8 of an inch instead of the more typical 9/32. So how deeper is the new tire? So the new tire is deeper. So, and we got to think, how much deeper is it? Okay, it's like kind of like when you're asking about snow. Say it snowed 2 inches in Manassas and 5 inches in Gainesville. How much deeper was it in Gainesville? Well, it was 3 inches deeper because it was 5 in Gainesville, 2 in Manassas. 5 minus 2 is 3. So deeper, that's a hint for subtraction. So I got to do 3/8 minus 9/32. Again, 8 goes into 32, so hooray, that's my common denominator. I'm going to times this one by 4 and 4, so I get 12. Times 1 is 9. 12 minus 9 is 3 over 32 inches deeper. And that's the end of the 1B Part 2 notes. I hope this helps.